everyone, it's Shane Kanto, sounding like a frog today, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my weekly show where my guest and I each pick a film related in some shape or form, or we do something special like this episode where we have three films, one trilogy, 9 hours and 40 minutes of your life, and that is the Human Condition trilogy from director Masaki Kobayashi. And joining me for this journey is my friend Luke.
Hello, and who else would, pick this than me? But I'm so appreciative that Shane said, you know what, let's do this. So thank you for making my dreams come true, I guess.
There you go. Now, this sounds like a Jess pick, a 3.5 hour Japanese
Okay.
film for sure, and then two other 3 hour films on top of
Yep.
it. No, this is quite the feat in filmmaking for sure. And it'll be interesting because so much of this kind of like flows together
Yep.
in one giant narrative.
hmm
So, but I do think that the first to second film are distinct
Hmm.
in terms of like there's more of a divide of like, yes, I know exactly where this splits
Yeah.
versus the second and the third one where it's it's all war. So if
Yeah.
I get anything mixed up in my brain fog state, I apologize. But
That's actually my first question. Did you watch? I'm guessing you watched it like the same as we because we have two versions. There's like international version, which is three movies, or there is a like a Japanese miniseries where like the disc I had was so basically
ooh,
we'll split it for you into six parts. So like it's each is like roughly hour and a half. So I'm guessing you also watched
interesting.
just like three like the international ver that's what they
Yeah, because
call it.
I watched the Criterion versions on the Criterion channel.
Yeah.
So it was split into
Mm-hmm.
No Greater Love,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Road to Eternity, and A Soldier's Prayer.
Yes. Yeah.
But let's get started with the 3 hour and 28 minute No Greater Love, part one.
Mm-hmm.
So, a Japanese pacifist, unable to face the dire consequences of conscientious objection, is transformed by his attempts to compromise with the demands of wartime Japan. But Luke, what are your general thoughts on leg one of this journey?
So the leg one is a very long leg.
Yes.
It is the longest of them all.
Hmm.
It definitely feels that. However, so like maybe a spoiler alert, this trilogy for me is definitely, increases as it progresses. So I think despite me saying this is the weakest, I would still say this is very firm like because there's so much going for this movie. So it's very firm like. I cannot do it any higher. Like, so because we'll talk about it, but there's a few things I have. So what about you, Shane?
I guess if we're thinking about ranking them,
hmm
I think this was my second, and then the second was my third. And that
Uh,
last one,
yeah, yeah,
that last part was something. We'll get
yeah.
there.
hmm
I do think that the biggest issue that No Greater Love has is that I think this could have easily been shorter. Like there could have been places where you could have tightened this up. I don't
hmm
think like this could have been roughly the same length as the other two, and I think it would have been perfectly fine getting
hmm
across what it was trying to get across.
hmm hmm
And you know, you have this strong central performance, this man who, you know, wants to treat other human beings like, human beings.
What a
And
concept.
and this is very interesting because this trilogy shines a light on like so much of World War II history is about how horrible the Nazis were and all the
hmm
horrible things that the Germans did.
hmm
But let's be frank, the Japanese did some really bad stuff too.
Well,
And
they
it's
were
just
their
that
allies. Yes. Yeah.
But we don't. I don't think we. And this is going to sound very blunt. I don't think we learn as much about that because
Hmm.
they did it to other Asian people.
Well, the way they entered the World War II is Pearl Harbor.
Yeah,
So I think we talk about that
we
as
were
far
just
as like
like, not our
main,
problem until
yeah, like
they
mainstream
until they
history. That's I think that's the oh, Japan was evil because Pearl Harbor, and then you learn from this movie actually besides look at everything else they've done to like Korean people, Chinese people,
people.
their own people, like
Well, that was the thing because the world was just letting them do it. It wasn't until they attacked the United States that the United States was like, oh, wait a minute. So like you see these very inhumane treatment of the Chinese people because Manchuria was a very specific
mhm,
conflict for like years and years and years and years, the Japanese and the Chinese fighting over that land. And I'm really impressed by this central performance from Hatsuya Nakadai, who, like, this is 9 hours and 40 minutes of film. He
mhm,
has to bear the weight
yeah,
of this and carry this whole entire trilogy across. And I think he is fantastic.
mhm,
I think his performance, and we see it evolve or, devolve throughout these
mhm,
films.
yep,
He's very passionate in this. And this is the type of film where it's just like, it could be very easy to be like, why are we wasting all this time on romance with his wife and stuff like that? But there's a humanity and a connection and a beauty between their connection.
mhm,
And that's what makes that final shot of this film so powerful. As they're like running towards each other with the camera panning across those hills and stuff like that.
mhm,
I'll have to say something that really stood out to me about this first film. Those last 30 minutes, Kobayashi goes hard.
yeah,
Like filmmaking wise, he starts throwing out Dutch angles and these camera pans across and there's some very striking imagery. You just see these like ravaged dead bodies and the camera just holding on them and you're just like, holy shit.
mhm, mhm,
Like it hits. And he does even even though you have to get through 3 hours of movie up to that point, it's gonna grab you in those
mhm.
last 30 minutes and drive that point home for sure.
Yeah, just 100%. So just to piggyback off of what he said. So first of all, Tatsuya Nakadai. Yes, I don't think he's ever lets go, like, or his performance ever dips below a certain level, and he is phenomenal across all three movies, and he needs to be, and he is a big reason why this trilogy works the way this does. Also, he only died last November,
What?
last 92. So he better be in an Oscar in memoriam fucking segment for this year. Like if they omit him, like this giant of Japanese cinema, because like if you look at his filmography, he's continued to act ever since pretty much he died,
Yeah.
and like some of the greatest movies. So like he better be in that fucking Oscar reel Academy.
Yeah,
Like
he was working up until 2020, which is
exactly.
wild.
Yep. But so like to your point and to your point about the love story, that actually wasn't even my like quote unquote negative. Like I loved that I loved
Yeah.
that love story because like the scene where he comes home. I don't know if it's like a middle of the movie or something. He comes home like beaten down and like like almost broken, and his wife, this cutest little woman you've ever seen, is so happy about the egg, and like he cannot find the joy because he's been so like like put through the ringer and all that. And then he slowly, and because of his wife, he slowly remembers to enjoy life eventually, and he apologizes to her. I thought that scene was great. So, and again, like filmmaking wise, I think we can say all three movies masterfully shot. The
Yep.
cinematography is awesome. The music, it's like, there's certain themes that repeat, but like, there's a point to every single one of them. So like on technical level, all these three movies are very high.
Absolutely. And I guess to reiterate, it could have easily been, why are we focusing all this time on this? But yes, it was a very beautiful connection. And it's so important because it's what continues to drive him
Hmm.
throughout all three of these films. Because, in the third film, it's like his whole entire point is trying to get home to his
Yes.
wife.
Yes. Yes.
And if you don't set that up here, then what's the point by the time we get to there? But their dynamic is fantastic. And Nakadai, he had Ron, he had Harakiri, uh, and he's been in some of the biggest Japanese films of all time.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
his work with Kobayashi, which Harakiri is an absolutely amazing film and has the most beautifully shot sword fight I think I've ever seen in a movie. Um, this film has so much to say about humanity
Hmm.
and trying to keep humanity and Haji just trying to fight to
Hmm.
support them. And then you see the horrible, twisted things that the Japanese military and government are willing to do. Like, well, they try to escape, kill them. And all those, like, that last 30 minutes is so hard because we know all this is a lie. And all of
Hmm.
this is just, they're trying to make a point.
Hmm.
And we just see Kaji beat down throughout this whole entire film. And what does it cost him? It costs him his freedom. He's
Hmm.
thrown in the military. And obviously, we see where his journey goes from there. But just watching his fight to try to support these Chinese prisoners is very harrowing and very powerful. And I don't know if there's enough conflict to sustain 3 hours and 26 minutes, which is probably part of the problem for this first film,
Hmm.
but it does deliver plenty of drama. And there's some really incredibly acted sequences throughout this film.
100%. So for me, I think like the length would be one of the biggest, like not the disadvantages or like but like one of the gripes I had with this movie specifically. But the other is, and I hate to do this because like you can reduce any movie like this, but did we really need the same thing to happen three different times? When it's like,
Mm.
oh, they try to escape. Oh, they escaped. Oh, they will, so he gets punished. Oh, they will not escape again. Oh, he's escaped again. I'm like, oh, and then when it happens for the third time, I'm like, okay. Like, look, I understand if we reduce movies to like, few sentences, like in every movie sounds like dumb. Yeah, okay, I understand. And that's why I don't try to do it. But in this movie specifically, when you have 210 minutes,
Yep.
it like it definitely drags on when you make the same kind of when the punishment when the punishment is the same as the last one, and like like yes, it serves to see him slowly losing faith in those prisoners and slowly him treating them as like garbage, as like beneath them because like they betrayed his trust, and that kind of like I think ultimately this movie is trying to cover so much thematically, like about
Yeah.
hey, freedom, love, like Japan's involvement in World War II. How did that look like? And then Japanese against Chinese and against Korean against this. Like it tries to touch on so much. It feels. I think this movie felt the most unfocused in a way where he tries to cover, even despite its length, he tries to do so much. I'm like all over the place. So, and I think this is like, and I written something like on my letterboxd. I wonder if I'm gonna have the same problem with the length for the other two. I didn't because I think the other two are more focused what they're trying to say, and that's definitely for the better. Yeah. So yeah, that's really my biggest gripe with this movie. The love story didn't bother me at all.
So like, I watched a movie yesterday that was 80 minutes,
Hmm.
and I thought it was too long.
Yeah.
this could be any film. If you
Hmm.
don't make the use of your time in an
Hmm.
effective way and make your audience feel like everything is important, and they're going to check out no matter how long the film is. But
Yes,
if you are going to make a 3 hour and 28-minute film, you really have to make sure that all of it's going to feel meaningful
correct.
and necessary. And I don't think this always feels that way.
Hmm.
But I still feel like it has such a powerful message,
Hmm.
such a powerful performance, and the directing is incredible from Kobayashi.
Yes.
And the cinematography is so crisp and engaging. And then when he starts really leaning into the different types of camera angles and camera movements, like like I said before, the last 30 minutes of this is something special.
I do
And
remember those. Like, see,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt, but I do remember the last 30 minutes of this movie. If you tell me, do you remember what happened in the second hour, hour of this movie? I'm like, one of the escapes probably. And that's, I think that's to your point.
yeah,
When it works, it works. Like when it fucks hard. But
yep.
like, but before that, it's like, there are sequences where it's like, I get it. I really get it.
Well, there you go. But the next piece, The
Hmm.
Human Condition 2, Road to Eternity, we have at this point, Kaji is conscripted into wartime Japanese military, and he struggles to maintain his determination to keep his ideals throughout this. And this is 3 hours, 1 minute. So this
Hmm.
is the shortest one, still starring Tatsuya Nakadai, Michio Aratama, and directed by Kobayashi.
Hmm.
But Luke, what were your thoughts on this second leg of this trilogy?
So as I've alluded to before, so this one I'm on a low side of loved it. So like this is for me like I know it looks like I'm in a minority, but I actually prefer this to the first one. I don't think it's the length, however, like it's not just it's because it's shorter, it's my like better. No, I think like what I said about the themes because this movie, at least to me, seems to focus on pride, on hey. Japan did some awful shit, and are we the baddies meme? Like, if we do it in 2026 speak, like, like it seems to focus on that. And if there is, and towards the end, there is a big thing with, like honorable death. What does it mean? Does it exist? And I admire the movie, this trilogy, and this and the other movie, this third one, for being able to talk very openly 14 years after World War II's ended and after Americans dropped two nuclear bombs on Japan openly about, hey, we were kind of dicks. Like, not that we deserved those nuclear bombs, but we were fucking dicks. And I really admire movies who are willing to take a look at any nation and like, hey, we did this awful shit in the past. Look at us. And I really admire that balls on, the director. But yeah, so I low side a little bit. What about you?
Well, and that's a very interesting point because thinking about it's artists that
Hmm.
wind up putting a mirror up to society and being like,
But
I
this
don't think you're
early,
very good.
this
And
early, damn.
yeah, and Kobayashi coming in there 14 years after the end of World War II and just being like, this is
Hmm.
bad
Yeah.
and we did horrible things. And I think what these films do so well is capturing, yes, the Japanese one did some horrible things and how they treated
Hmm.
their prisoners and how like what they did during wartime, but also it captures the horrors of war
Yes.
in general and how nobody is getting out of this okay.
And how
And
nobody in war is innocent. And I think that's the brilliance of the third movie particularly. Just to, yeah.
and I'll admit this is probably the least memorable of the three for me.
Okay.
I do think this is tighter than the first film. I think it feels like because this shows a lot of getting ready for war
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and there's not to put like training camp type of stuff and boot camp types of elements and then actually getting into the war elements.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a familiar feeling. Like we've seen films that deal with like boot camp into war and stuff like that. I think one of the things that stands out so much in this film is still continuing the relationship between Kaji and Machiko and their last interaction together
Mm-hmm.
was so harrowing and
Mm-hmm.
so emotional. And that's what this is all about for him. It's getting back to his wife, and that's why it was so important setting that up in the first film.
Mm-hmm.
And him going off to war is leaving not only his life behind and his pacifism behind, but it's leaving his love behind.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the most important thing in his life. And that last moment, and I think Aratama's performance is fantastic. And it's very interesting how we see a lot of these very uncomfortable moments in terms of what they're pushing these soldiers to do. And then once we get into like the actual battle elements, it is raw, it's visceral, and it's very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the one where we have the soldier suicide, right? Like one of the yeah. It's not the third one. Okay, yeah. Because they blend together a bit, I will say.
Yeah.
So I think I read like, there are some scenes, especially in a boot camp, like you can see Stanley Kubrick must have seen this and like, hey, Full Metal Jacket. Hey.
Yeah.
So just talk about how influential these movies are. Uh, and I think ultimately that's what like the getting ready for war, the boot camp. Like, yeah, I was struggling a bit. I'm not gonna lie with this. But I think the moment where it clicked for me is, yeah, like, saying goodbye to the love of his life and going into the war, going into and actually realizing, oh, we are on a back foot here. Like, we are not gonna win this. But the national pride, that, everything that does, everything that Japan as a nation is great about, it's also their biggest downfall is that national pride. I'll leave it at that, and it applies today as well. If you follow any news at all, that is still the case. Nothing's changed. So, and that, like, I think that ultimately portrays it beautifully. Like, the movie doesn't judge the people, it judges the system that's in place, the honor code, this is not the prideful thing to do whilst they are doing the most awful shit imaginable, right? But it's not to us, so it's fine. And yeah, this movie again, beautifully shot. The last sequence, the battlefield, and talking about the, like honorable death, and realizing, like, there might not be such a thing. It's again, it is that's why I think like that resonated with me a bit more than the previous one because I feel like this is the like if it wasn't for a third one, this might be the best exclamation anti-war movie. Like, like how, again, there's no innocent people in war, and no matter what you do, that you will be scarred by it, and no matter what you do, you will never leave war behind, right?
Yep.
And so I think, yeah, if it wasn't for the third one, this would be one of the best like anti-war movies I've ever seen. Not just Japanese, not just black and white. Like this is just yeah, like the last I think because of the last 30, 40 minutes, I really that struck with me.
Some of the things that really stood out to me, there's a couple of sequences in this. There's that one sequence where there's just flames and smoke and this like marshy
Mhm.
area, and one of them trying to, escape.
Yeah.
One of the soldiers running off, and then Kaji is chasing after the one guy chasing after the guy running away.
Mhm.
And that scene is so thrilling, how it's shot. The setting is so interesting and dynamic. And then you have that like almost suffocating, almost drowning in those marshes and stuff like that. That whole
Mhm.
sequence was incredible. Something I noticed is I don't think John Ford would like this. There's so many horizons in the middle of the frame
Yeah.
throughout this movie, but they look so striking
Hmm.
in the way that they do it. And that's the thing. Because have you seen Harakiri?
Yes, we talked about it.
We did talk about it. I'm trying to remember if that was this version or the
No,
previous
that was
version.
the previous. Like it's
This
been,
version,
like, to be fair, it's been like 2, 3 years. So I don't. I
yeah.
remember. I understand you don't remember because you do so much.
I couldn't remember if I talked to you about it or if I talked to Rowan about it. And now I'm realizing I talked to both of you
I
about it.
think you did
Yeah,
mention that.
I did.
Yes.
I did two separate podcasts. Like, I think Kobayashi is one of the most interesting and dynamic filmmakers
Hmm.
in terms of how he creates such striking and engaging looking films.
Yes.
And the way that they use shadow and the way that they use the horizon,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they really capture the landscape and to the scale of all of this so well. And like I'm just looking through the stills on
Hmm.
IMDb for this film, and they're incredible. Like this
Yes.
looks like an incredibly beautiful film. You have that whole sequence with like their how to put it, they're not sword fighting, they have the big like wooden swords and stuff like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
That whole sequence is intense and there's so many great moments in this film. And that's the thing, through all of how much film there is in these three films, there's always something that's standing out
Hmm.
and something really impressive. And yes, this film does not pull punches when it's trying to capture just how harrowing war is, the effects that it has on people, and the dark places that it pushes you.
Hmm.
And like like you said, that last sequence of this film is really hard to watch. It's
Hmm.
brutal, it's
Hmm.
intense, and where it leaves Kaji at the end of this film is such a great setup to the depths of hell that he winds up going to in the last one in this series.
Yeah. In our current climate, I never thought I would be so happy to see Russians. Like, hey, I guess the good guys are here. Okay. Oh yeah, Soviets, of course. Yes, because back then, Soviets helped a big time. Yeah, yeah. But no, like to your point about the horizons, I I they are beautiful, and
Yeah.
I think they are also meaningful. Like because like I think that just so just juxtapose, like I think he understands like how tiny they are against everything that surrounds them, like how meaningless this is. And I that's at least that's how I read it. It's like, oh damn, this like again, there's these are not just, oh, there's a beautiful horizon, let me put this on film for like 10 seconds. I think Kobayashi, when he does everything, there's a purpose to it. And even if I don't necessarily vibe with it 100% of the time, I am so appreciative that he managed to do, it seems, everything he wanted to do, because I don't think we mentioned this. This is based on a book or a series of books that were basically untouchable because yeah, they were not popular in Japan at all because reason, because exactly what we said, and he was
Yeah.
adamant that he wants to do those books, so he made it.
He is from Junpei Gomikawa, who
Hmm.
wrote these novels. And yet again, artists trying to hold a mirror up to society. And I'm wondering how long the book is.
I
And
think they are big books. Like,
okay, but like this is, and there's that one particular shot where it has that horizon, and they're all
hmm.
like like walking across the sky,
Hmm.
basically. And you're right. It really captures just like how small and meaningless all of this is in the grand scheme of things. But
Mm-hmm.
it's Luke, did you have anything else to add about Road to Eternity?
No, I think that's about it.
Well,
Let's
let's go
go.
hard and get into A Soldier's Prayer, as this is the final film in this trilogy. His ideals challenged by life as, you know, a conscript in wartime Japan's military pacifist faces ever greater tests in his fight for survival. And like this film's no longer about, just winning or like
Mm-hmm.
fighting in a war. Like this is just about Haji trying to survive and desperately trying to get home.
Yep.
And I think this is the one that out of the three of them that uses that 3 hours and 10 minutes so effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And this film consistently is so memorable, engaging, and powerful. But Luke, what are your general thoughts on this third piece, A Soldier's Prayer?
So this is the one I can say I fully loved this movie, but holy fuck. If you thought the previous two movies are depressing and dark,
Yep.
get ready because that third one surely punches you in the gut, in the balls, and then repeatedly in the face several times just in case it misses the first two times.
In case you didn't
It's
feel it.
yeah, it's insane how this so oh my God. What this guy goes through and how it ultimately finishes. It's like it's I was rooting, you know, like my naive soul was kind of rooting for a happier ending, even though I knew deep down that's not gonna happen. Do we wanna like fully spoil one thing? Because like,
Well, we usually spoil
yeah,
stuff talking on this show, so right off the bat, this movie ends, he dies. And like tragically.
not even, yeah, yes, but not even that. I was really hoping he would reunite with Michiko one more time because that, as you
Nope.
pointed out before, like a few minutes ago, that's throughout this third movie, that is his driving force. This dude survives and withstands so much crap because he's like, I need to see you one more time. I need you to forgive me. I need you to do this. And like, so you're on this quest with him effectively where he's just doing everything in his power just to go back because he understands there's no winning. He understands everything's lost, but everything is against him. And just so not only that he dies in snow, covered in snow, which apparently, by the way, that was actually him lying there for several hours. So they would wait until he gets covered. Insane. But the fact that he never, yeah, like they actually said goodbye in a second movie, and they
Yeah.
never seen each other again, and the interaction he has with the woman in the forest that kind of reminds him of Michiko in a few scenes. It's just so fucking painful and so heartbreaking. Uh, yeah. What about you? What did you think?
Uh look up tragedy in
Hmm.
the encyclopedia in like the dictionary, and
The
there's a
poster for this
picture of
movie.
there's a picture of Kaji. Because the worst part is we don't even know what happened to Michiko.
Yep.
And there's only like what we think or he thinks might have happened. And that's harrowing and disturbing and uncomfortable. And that whole entire final sequence of this film
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
striking
Hmm.
and just so emotionally arresting. And it's so funny because growing in a beard, it's just like, look, he has a beard. Like,
Yeah.
it shouldn't mean like you wouldn't think means so much, but like just the fact that he has this beard that's disheveled version of like he's been through some stuff. And this has gone beyond, you know, just he's been at war for a long time. He's lost. He is rugged. He's ravaged by life. And just that shot head on of him standing in the snow in complete anguish. scruffy beard, eyes looking like they're gonna pop out of his head.
Hmm.
And Nakanai sells that so well.
Yeah.
And it's just so emotional. Like you just spent 9 hours and 40 minutes invested in this story, and it pulls the rug out from under you. And it's like,
Like it's going there. This
yeah,
is that he's not gonna reunite me with Chico. He needs to die. Well, needs not needs to, but he will die. But like there's a part of you, there's a small part of you that hopes because I think that ultimately that's what the movie is about. It's no matter what happens, there's always a hope. Oh, there's a hope that we might win this. There is a hope this battle will not go as well. There is a hope that people, even if they capture you, and you're a prisoner of war, they will treat you with some respect. And I think that ultimately, and that's why he walks through the snow, through the mountains, to, on a slight off chance that he hopes to see his one and only wife and love one more time. Like this, like I think that's ultimately, like we see him being broken down ever so slightly throughout his movies, and until this movie, like halfway through, I think the village scene when they go to the village where they affect, when that's when they surrender. Like I think he's got the realization of like when the woman says, "You really need to have a man to protect you," because like we hear stories how Japanese women are being raped, so they need so either you get captured and raped, or you marry somebody even though you already have a husband that fights in a war. So like he is like, oh yeah, okay, and then he understands the actual danger not for them but for the village, and he surrenders himself and his unit. It's yeah, there's no for people who actually or for soldiers who fight in any war. For them, they often say like the war never ends.
well, and you feel that weight. And this is one of the interesting things, especially being, from the United States. It's been centuries,
Mhm.
literally,
Mhm.
since the United States has had to defend its own land.
Have you
And
ever?
the War 1812, the British
I guess. Yeah.
came back and tried to take things back, which was like 1812. So
Because
literally 2 centuries.
because like I not to make it too political now, but I heard like a great talking point recently about why not all Americans, but many Americans are still fairly great with, oh, let's invite Venezuela, let's do this to this country, because they haven't have to live with the impact of what they do in other countries. Because imagine if somebody
There's a distance.
If yeah, exactly. Imagine if some fucker does what the what the certain president did to Venezuela and other countries, like to Texas or Florida. Imagine that. Hmm.
Well, and
Anyway.
that's the thing. Like you witness
Hmm.
the effects of on everybody in
Hmm.
this. We have that village and the fear
Hmm.
that's there. We have them being captured by the Soviets. That was so weird just seeing like Joseph Stalin's like
Yeah,
face just hanging up there right
that
behind.
poster. Yeah.
You have that sequence. You have
Hmm.
where they find Japanese military and they're like, "You're deserters, we're not helping you."
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And she's like, "They're not deserters. They're just trying to desperately like claw back from being demolished." And the fact that their own people won't help them. And then this was like, I'm just looking through the images here. That soldier hanging in the forest
Oh yeah.
shot is so haunting
Hmm.
to look at. And there are so many moments throughout this film where you just feel the weight of all of this. And whether it's through rain or snow or, you know, bullets flying or anything, this is such a harrowing experience. Like that whole entire sequence where he's trying to escape that village,
Hmm.
when it's under siege and everything. It's like this is some thrilling and really incredibly shot sequences. And there's like I'm trying to think of obviously like Saving Private Ryan's like that film for so many that how
Yes.
thrilling and how brutal it is. And that has like modern filmmaking to back it. This is so impeccably made. And how it captures all these the horrors of everything is so impactful.
What stood out to me, like at least filmmaking wise, excuse me, was and why this movie is like again we said all these three movies are excellently shot, but this one specifically is I feel like Kobayashi kicked on another gear, and specifically to me, like yes, the shot in the forest is awesome, the village scene, the interrogation scene where he gets the interpreter that I don't know if he is fucking him over on purpose or whether he just doesn't understand fully Russian and he pretends. Like I don't think that was ever clear, but that's beside the point. And there's a sequence where he kind of realizes that no matter what he says will be misinterpreted. And there is a sequence where suddenly there's just like a light on him and him alone, and almost everything else blends in this darkness for like few minutes. And I thought I was like, damn. And like and we only hear the his inner dialogue or his sorry inner monologue, not dialogue. He is not no. Uh, and I thought that was a beautiful sequence. I thought it was a meaningful sequence. Another thing with that interpreter and how he is pointing out what the Soviets do wrong with their prisoners, as if he or not he, as if Japanese didn't do it 2 movies ago to the Chinese. And I'm like, that's the beautiful, unfortunately, irony in this. It's like one bully talks to the other bully like, "Hey, you're bullying these people way too hard, my friend," and then yeah, it's again like I feel like this movie is the ultimate anti-war movie, pro-humanistic movie where like it shows you if people are put in positions of power, no matter the like some sort of hierarchy, eventually something like that will happen. And I think ultimately that's why this trilogy is called Human Condition. Because is it our condition to always be skewed to evil? If is it? Because it seems like every experiment we've ever done, the more power somebody has, it doesn't usually end well.
Well, and I think this film captures the worst of humanity and all of our worst instincts, all of our worst features, and everybody is bad.
Hmm.
And everybody gets hurt throughout this film. And, I mentioned the last 30 minutes of the first one are like so dynamic from filmmaking standpoint. All 3 hours and 10 minutes of this movie is incredibly well shot,
Yep.
how it's all put together. And whether it's all the Dutch angles to capture the disoriented feeling of them being tired and hungry and dehydrated and all of the different landscapes that they go through, all the harrowing experiences that they have. And this is going to sound weird to say, but like this plays out like an adventure film in terms
Mhm.
of like this is such a sprawling
Yeah. Yeah.
journey. And obviously it's not a fun
Mm-mm.
adventure film. It is an epic
Yeah.
because like where the first film doesn't leave this mine very often at
Hmm.
all. The second film, a lot of it takes place at this boot camp.
Yep.
This is a journey,
Hmm.
and it is a deeply emotional and powerful and hard-hitting one for sure. I wonder if this film was released by itself. I think it still would be an absolutely incredible film, but it's the two other films that builds up
Hmm.
all of the weight and emotion that just really reinforces the journey that Kaji is going on.
No, 100%. So even despite me, like, saying, the first and second movie could be tighter here and there, I still am glad that I finally watched those. I am still glad that Kobayashi adapted. So I've Googled it. This book apparently is only 383 pages. So I don't know what my dude was smoking, but damn. He was like 300, 400 pages. All right, that means 9-hour movies. Let's go.
Well, that's the thing, Luke. If you actually adapt a book
Mm-hmm.
very closely,
Yep.
they're going to be long
Yep.
movies.
Yep.
Like so many other films truncate things and pull them down, but like ostensively, because I was trying to think about this, like I'm in the middle of watching a two-part chapter one, chapter two film, and like
Mm-hmm.
they're each 80 minutes. And I'm like, why couldn't this have just been like one 2 hour and 15-minute movie or something if you just like
Attention span.
trimmed trimmed it down? Like obviously they would have to do a lot of trimming to try to make this into one film,
Mm-hmm.
but this film I think stands on its own as an absolutely incredible film.
Yes. And it seems like, Kobayashi was on some sort of insane run because he did this, he did Harakiri after. He did a movie it's been added to Amazon in the UK called, and the name now escapes me. He's done something beginning with a K. I'm
Because
Googling
he
it.
only has 23 films.
Yes, as a director. Yes, as a
Oh,
director.
Fight On, which
Yes.
is incredible too.
See, and it's also just like I think 1 minute shy of 3 hours.
Yep.
But
It's an
I've
anthology film.
okay, but yeah, I've noticed it on Amazon Prime UK. It's been added for free, so I'm like, you know what? Yes, let's like I'm. It's on my watch list. It's gonna be watched at some before they remove it because I am fully in on this director, and because look, you will not feel great watching or afterwards when he finishes movies, not because of the length, but because of like what he makes you watch. But I think the journey is worth it. And I think this, you know, tells you so much about a lot of different things and is not afraid to pull any punches. It's not afraid to criticize, you know, anybody, whether it's subtly or not so subtly. And I always admire, and again, only 14 and this one 16, because this one is 61, 16 and 14 years after World War II. That Yeah, that like he's got my respect because wow.
Absolutely. And it looks like he has Samurai Rebellion,
Mm,
starring Toshiro Mifune, that came out
yes.
after Qui-Gon. I think it would be really cool to cover Kobayashi on my Welcome to the Wasteland show. We'll see
Do
how
it.
people vote.
Do it.
But Luke, thank you so much for going on this epic journey through these three films with me.
Well, no, thank you for agreeing because I didn't think you would. And honestly, I don't think there's anybody else I would rather go on this journey of 9 hours something with anybody else but you. So thank you for agreeing.
I do love me some Japanese cinema
Oh,
for
I
sure.
know.
And this was a pleasure as always, Luke. And
Mhm.
thank all of you for listening. And next week, Jeff is going to be joining me to talk about Donnie Darko and the butterfly effect. So, very different kind of show for sure. And next month, Luke and I are going to be doing something a lot shorter, Forbidden Planet and the 50s, The War of the Worlds. So, combined 3 hours, still
Yep.
less than these three films. But thank all of you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What is your go-to of Japanese cinema? There's some incredible filmmakers for sure. Make sure to like, comment, and share, and make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you ever listen to your podcast. The SPDM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding. If you want to be a guest on one of these shows or have your own podcast and become part of the crew, reach out to us on our website. And if you like our logo, check out High Flyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.